Hi everybody, I'm Randy. This is the Literate Texan, my channel where we talk about books and literature, lowbrow, highbrow, and anywhere in between. We're not snobs here, but we don't read just total crap either. So tonight, I have got a video for you. It's called the Dr. No-vember Survival Guide. And yes, I've already made my Dr. No-vember announcement video. But I wanted to do something just a little bit more because I'm really excited about this event this year. And also, I remember when I first came onto BookTube, I knew there were events, but I wasn't exactly sure how to participate. And things were a little more complicated. So I wanted to answer some of the really simple questions that you might have and give you some tips and advice so that you don't feel overwhelmed and so that you can sit back and you can say, yeah, I'm doing this right. Because that was my constant question when I started doing events on BookTube, especially Dr. No-vember. Am I doing this right? So here I am. So, and obviously, actually, it's not obvious at all. Dr. No-vember is an event about spy fiction, mostly espionage literature. Some of it can be nonfiction too, but I mean, we're talking about James Bond stuff. We're talking about the novels of John le Carre and Robert Ludlum, that kind of thing. So, if you're a fan of that sort of thing, or if you don't know if you're a fan of that sort of thing, you want to try it and see, this is the event for you. And we got a really great bunch of co-hosts this year. There's 9 hosts, and I've got them written down in a list here somewhere. Well, let's see. I thought I had them written down in a list here somewhere. Where'd they go? All right, here they are. I take notes because I forget things, but then sometimes I forget where I left the notes. Okay, so here's our co-hosts, and I will include these down in the description below too. But Jim at Mystery and Mayhem is one of the co-hosts. If history is any indication, he will be posting some really cool videos as part of this event. Number 2 is Greg at Another Bibliophile Reads. He's one of the smartest and most insightful guys I read with on BookTube. I really love his channel. If you haven't watched his channel yet, definitely do so. And if history is any indication, he will be heavily involved in Dr. No-vember as well. Number 3 is Steve Donahue. Steve Donahue is the grand poobah of BookTube. He's been at it for 10 years now, and he averages 3 or 4 videos a day. We're really delighted to have him as a co-host, of course, because he knows everything about everything, including spy fiction. Number 4 is the Rambling Raconteur. I'm a little bit less familiar with him and his channel, but I'm excited that he's going to be one of the co-hosts. Number 5 is Bookstalgic. Also, I'm not as familiar with Bookstalgic's channel as I am with some others, but I am a little bit familiar with it. It's great. You can check it out. And also, it's a terrific name for a channel. Bookstalgic is just wonderful as a name for a channel. Number 6, Alan's Reads. Number 7 is Riff Raff's Reading Renaissance, and that's Mike's channel. I watched my first Riff Raff Reading Renaissance video just today, in fact, and he's absolutely marvelous. I just loved it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And then number 8, the founder of the event, the creator of Dr. No-vember, Mark at Book Time with Elvis. And you may know Mark already if you're a devotee of what I'm doing on BookTube, because Mark and I host a show every Wednesday at noon Central Standard Time where we have on a guest, and we try to focus on operating a BookTube channel. It's a BookTube show for BookTubers more than anything else. And we don't always succeed at keeping on topic there. Sometimes we just get carried away talking about what we've been reading, but it's not, generally speaking, that kind of show with that kind of focus. It's more focused on how do you run a YouTube channel, how do you run a successful YouTube channel, and how do you know if your channel is successful or not. And we get a lot of varying opinions because we get a wide diversity of guests on it. Anyway, you should check it out sometime if you haven't been watching it. But yeah, Mark at Book Time with Elvis, the founder of this event, and one of the 9 co-hosts, which includes me. So there's 8 co-hosts plus me. If I left anybody off the list, please let me know either in the comments or send me a message at the Voxer group, and I will update this video in the description accordingly and list your name there, okay? So, and I took notes so that I would actually have a structure to this video instead of just rambling around like I sometimes do, okay? So the first subject I have to talk about here is let's see here. What is Dr. No-vember? And I remember when I started talking about this today, I said, everybody knows what Dr. No-vember is. And no, you don't necessarily know what Dr. No-vember is. When Mark first told me about it, I didn't know what it was either. Dr. No is a famous James Bond villain. And Dr. No-vember, of course, is an event about spy and espionage fiction. And James Bond, of course, before he was the number one movie franchise in history, before that, he was a star of a series of spy books written by Ian Fleming and published in the 1950s and the 1960s. And there have been James Bond books that have been published after that by a variety of authors too. But the classic, original, traditional James Bond, consists of 14 books that were written by Ian Fleming. There are 12 novels and 2 collections of short stories. And they're great. I've read them all before. My plan I'll get to my plans for this event in a moment, so stay tuned for that, okay? So the event itself is simple enough to participate in, okay? If you want to say you've participated in Dr. No-vember, all you have to do is read one book in the espionage field. And it could be nonfiction, but generally speaking, most of us are reading spy novels, okay? If you've read a spy novel, then you can say you participated in Dr. No-vember. Bing, you've survived. You've not only survived this event, but you've thrived. You got your little merit badge, okay? And I would encourage you not to try to go overboard on the event like I'm doing, okay? And I do this with every event I take part in. I really go overboard on it. Sometimes that can be really stressful. It can interfere with your other reading. I know that the Lone Star Book Club, which I also host, we're reading The Fellowship of the Ring in November, the first part of The Lord of the Rings. So, we've already got a big book on our plates anyway. So, one of the ways to survive this event is to not overdo it. We do, however, have also a group read. And this group read can count as your one book, or it can be in addition to your one book. And this year the group read is The Quiet American by Graham Greene. If you haven't read it, it's absolutely true. It's also very short. You can read it in an afternoon easily. But The Quiet American by Graham Greene, highly recommended. One of the best books of the year that I read it, which I believe was 2023. I haven't read Graham Greene's other books yet, but believe me, he's on my short list of authors to read more of. So when you do participate, you could also make a video, but that's optional. But I encourage you to do so. Make a video about what you're reading for Dr. No-vember. And when you do, use hashtag Dr. No-vember, Dr. November. There'll be an example of that in the description field too. It's just going to make your video easier to find by other people participating in the event who want to hear what you're reading and what you think of what you're reading in Dr. No-vember. So that's it. It's that simple. Okay, read a spy-related book. Okay, it can be The Quiet American, which is the group read. You can skip The Quiet American altogether if it's not something you want to read, and just read one other, and you still say you participated. Or you can read The Quiet American and one other book of your choosing, or you can read both, either or. Anyway, just read a book about spies, and you got this. Okay, it's not hard. Don't get overwhelmed. All right, and let's see here. So I've got some examples here too. Ian Fleming is the author of the James Bond books, by the way, and Ian Fleming he wrote Chitty Chitty Bang Bang too, by the way, which is a famous children's novel. If you grew up when I did, you probably saw the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, but he wrote all the James Bond books. And he's one of my example authors on here. Then I've got John Le Carre. He's also an example of spy fiction author, best known for like The Spy Who Came In From the Cold. And then I've got Len Deaton on here. I believe that's how you pronounce Len Deaton. He wrote a novel called The Ipcress File. That's an example. I'm not as familiar with Len Deaton. Robert Ludlum, The Bourne Identity. So any of those Bourne movies that you've seen with Jason Bourne, those were based on books by Robert Ludlum. And I have a friend who just absolutely adores everything that Robert Ludlum writes. And he is a really knowledgeable critic about these things. And so, if he likes Robert Ludlum, then there's something to be said for Robert Ludlum because I trust his judgment, okay? So that's my first section on what is Dr. No-vember. The next section I have here is number 2. What does it say? Okay, so how to join and avoid what to avoid and choose on focusing on. Okay, so you can broadly separate spy fiction into 3 categories, okay? One of those categories is your classic spy fiction stuff. And your classic spy fiction stuff that goes back to around the 50s and before. James Bond would be your classic spy fiction. And that's a path that you could go down. You could read one book out of the James Bond series. You could read all the books in the James Bond series. Just depends on how much time you have to read. Luckily, the James Bond books are fairly short. So if you want to read a bunch of them, you can. No reason to read all of them. I read the James Bond books when I was a teenager. My public library had all of them, and I was just thrilled to be able to read all the James Bond books. And he is a very different character. Well, maybe not very different, but he is a distinctive character from the character as portrayed in the movies, okay? So that's one path you could go down. Another path you could go down is more literary spy fiction. And when we're talking about literary spy fiction, we're talking about John le Carré here. We're talking about the spy who came in from the cold and that sort of thing. Also, there's a newish writer who seems to be the heir apparent to John le Carré. His name is Mick Herron, and he wrote a series of books and is still working on a series of books about a bunch of disgraced secret agents from MI5 who all work together at a dead-end job but somehow get involved in real espionage cases anyway. And it got made into a TV show called Slow Horses. And I haven't read any of the novels, but they come highly recommended to me. And I did read the first couple of chapters of one of the novels, and it was gripping stuff. I really liked it. So that's another path you could go down. And it's these books are a little more dense. They require a little bit more effort on the part of you as the reader. You're not going to read probably all, Steve Donahue might take this as a challenge, but most people are not going to read all of John le Carré's spy novels in a month. They're just not going to. Even if you get the kind of word count or the page count in to do it, it's going to be kind of exhausting mentally. Okay. The third category or the third path that you could take is the kind of pulpy, modern, pulpish spy fiction. And I'm talking about Robert Ludlum and the Bourne books here, but also any kind of men's adventure series that has to do with spies would also qualify under this pulpy category here. So those are the 3 kind of broad subcategories of spy fiction that you can choose from. And there are a number of ways that you can use those categories to your advantage. And I'll talk about that in a minute because I've got it on my list here because I remember making these notes. Okay, so, yeah, and you only need one book to participate, so it can be from any of those 3 categories, all right? So here's my plan, all right? My plan, and it could change, okay, but my plan is, I do a lot of reading. It's my hobby. It's what I do. And my plan is to read all the James Bond books, okay? So don't feel any pressure to keep up with me because I'm probably not going to read much of anything but spy fiction for Dr. No-vember. So the James Bond books, I'm planning to reread the entire James Bond canon by Ian Fleming. And I'm also planning to read at least one book from Mick Herron because I was intrigued enough by the chapter or 2 that I read that I talked about before that I really am interested in learning more about those Slow Horses books. And then finally, I am going to participate in the group read. I am going to read The Quiet American by Graham Greene just because I loved it so much the last couple of times I read it and also really loved the movie. So that's my plan for Dr. No-vember. You get to make your own plan. Make it as easy as possible on yourself. All right. And so then my next section here is, and before I forget, I will be posting a weekly video on Fridays discussing what I'm doing as part of Dr. No-vember. In addition to my weekly videos about The Lord of the Rings, I'll be posting those too. And then right now I'm posting a weekly video about Dracula because that's my book club pick. I host the Lone Star Book Club. We're doing Dracula in October, And then next month we're doing the Lord of the Rings. And so I'll be posting a discussion video about the Lord of the Rings, but I'll also be doing a Dr. November post every week. And I would encourage you to do the same thing. But also, I am eagerly seeking people who want to buddy read some spy fiction with me next month. If you want to be a buddy reader, please let me know in the comments. Please hit me up on Voxer. You can hit me up on email, but I'm not always great about checking my emails. But yeah, even if you're one of the co-hosts of the event and we haven't met each other much yet, let me know. But yeah, I definitely want to, I really want to lean into the whole group aspect of this event this year. That's just me. That's what I want to do. All right. So I've got some tips. These are just random tips for surviving and thriving in Dr. November. This is the cheesiest video I've ever made, probably. All right, these are pro tips. That's what I wrote on my notes here, pro tips. All right, the first one is to alternate genres. Okay, so I mentioned the three subgenres, okay? So one approach to this would be to alternate between, serious literary spy fiction stuff and the more pulpy stuff and the more classic stuff. In other words, don't exclusively do what I'm doing and read nothing but James Bond books all month, because you know what, you may not have the stomach for a bunch of James Bond books in a row. They may get tiresome. Same thing for Robert Ludlum. You may get tired of them. But if you alternate, then you can get through the whole month and probably read a lot more spy fiction this month than you would otherwise, if you care about that sort of thing. You could also just read one book from one category. You could read one book from each category and just read 3 books total. There's any number of ways that you can do this, okay? So, but yeah, that's my suggestion, is to alternate categories. So read a James Bond, follow it up with a Robert Ludlum, and follow that up with a Mick Herron novel, and then repeat and stuff, because that'll keep you interested, because, you'll be switching moods and feelings and authors, So that's my first tip. Let's see, what's my second tip here? It says, oh golly, I can't read it. Audiobooks, okay? Audiobooks are great, all right? Especially with the older British books. Some of the language is, harder to read because it's a little bit more formal. So you can use an audiobook just to listen to by itself, or you can listen to the audiobook as you read, go for that total immersion thing. But that's not a bad idea. And if you are going to go the audiobook route, then I do recommend the Graham Greene audiobook for The Quiet American is really solid. And then any of your, what I write it down here? Oh yeah, any of your Le Carré is good on an audiobook too. So consider throwing audiobooks into the mix, okay? And do audiobooks count as reading? I don't know. I'm not going to talk about that here, but if you want to count it as reading for your spy fiction Dr. November, I'm not one to judge. That's for dang sure. And then, okay, this is a good tip too. Pair these with movies and TV shows. That one's kind of obvious. There's plenty of movies about James Bond. There's plenty of movies about Jason Bourne. And there's plenty of spy television in general. Slow Horses is a pretty popular, prestigious television show based on those Mick Herron novels that we talked about earlier. But also, some of the older stuff. The Prisoner is a really good espionage show that only had a few episodes. I think it only had 6 episodes or 8 episodes. But man, it's great. And it's also really weird. So if you're looking for something surreal in the realm of spy literature on television, go find yourself the Prisoner and watch it. Make a video about it. Let me know what you think, okay? And then my final tip, number 4, take notes. Okay, so that sounds like a general tip that you can give anybody for any kind of reading event, but it's a little bit different for spies, okay? It's different for Dr. November because we're dealing with literature that's about people who use code names all the time. Not only do they use code names all the time, but they lie for a living. That's what they do. They're spies. This is espionage. So it can be a little harder to keep up with who's who in various scenes, and also with who told which person which lie and what the truth is behind it. So I would say that it's even more important to take notes during Dr. November than it is in any other kind of event. So, and there you have it. Okay, so here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Okay, this is going to be pretty easy. I'm going to ask you to comment below and tell me what your plans are for Dr. November, if you have any. Okay, because I'm real interested in what you're planning to do. Also, if you make a video, I'm going to encourage you to make a video. Use the hashtag Dr. November in your video, and then please come back, read these spy books. Let's talk about them here. Let me know if you want to do a buddy read. My schedule's wide open for buddy reads in November. And honestly, it doesn't have to be spy fiction that we buddy read. You know, I am reading The Lord of the Rings for my book club. I'd be happy to buddy read that with somebody. Heck, if you guys want me to read a spy novel aloud on the channel, I could probably be persuaded to do that even. But yeah, that's it for my survival guide for Dr. November. As you can tell, I'm really, really excited since it's still an event that's 3 weeks away and I'm already making videos for it. But yeah, I'm just super stoked and pumped, and I want to find people who are also super stoked and pumped about spy fiction to participate in this with me. And so I love you guys. I'll be in another video soon. Until then, please stay hydrated and stay sexy, folks, just like James Bond.